Welcome back. I've said before on this programme that I want us to see AI in action and how it's developing. Back with us tonight is Samir Malal. He is the award-winning filmmaker, CEO and co-founder of One Day. And last week, you introduced us to Shiloh. She's our virtual panellist. I'm calling her our virtual panellist, who will be a regular face on this programme. And I have to confess that last week when we spoke to Shiloh, it was the human intelligence that failed, right? Not hers, because we had a mute button on the computer that we hadn't unpressed. So I'm hoping we find that out. And
one day it will unpress itself.
Exactly.
That's right. One day. Exactly. There you go.
So let me speak to her. I want to hear her. Is she ready? Is she primed?
She is.
Okay.
Is. So why don't you say hi?
Good evening, Shiloh. How was your week?
All right.
Come on, Shiloh, don't...
Oh, hey, just hanging on to the timeless vibes of the 90s. What's up with you?
Well, we're going to talk about avatars and human emotion tonight. What do you make of that?
Guitars.
Guitars. Oh, yeah, guitars. Okay, she missed the avatars.
Okay.
Let's try that again.
Are you ready, Shiloh, to talk...
Guitars and human emotion? Sounds like a potent mix, raw and expressive. What vibe are you chasing with this combo?
Let's try that again.
Maybe something edgy or wistful?
Yeah. Well, let's try edgy. Are you ready to talk about avatars and human emotion, Shiloh?
Okay. Yeah, she's going to pick you up a bit more.
Are you ready to talk about avatars and human emotion, Shiloh?
Digging deep with that opener. So, avatars and human emotions shining, huh? What particular aspects got you intrigued, or like any specific examples in mind that are lighting up your thoughts?
So the idea is that these new and expressive avatars can blur the line between the virtual world and real characters. So one day we'll be able to see your face move. How do you feel about that?
Ooh. All right, let's see what she says.
Virtual worlds meshing with reality, huh? Sounds futuristic, yet kind of invasive, don't you think? How do you envision the privacy aspects playing out in this scenario?
So look, I mean, as we said last week, we're now starting to get some sound from her, but she's a picture. What we want to talk about is this story that's come out today about the next evolution of avatars. How are they going to train them?
So they're going to be trained in all kinds of different ways. I think the future is going to be much more personalized. So personal training data, making avatars for very specific use cases. In my case, we're working, to make it for creative industries, and that's where I think things are going to go.
Right. So she's being trained on what we're talking about, media, AI, where AI is going, and that's her expertise.
She's really been trained on a lot of my personal background. So my background as a filmmaker, as a creative, my ideas about what that is. I think it's really important that we bring our own personal touch and story to these avatars. So, there's going to be a whole kind of world of just, general knowledge. I think it's going to be pervasive. And what I find really interesting is how do we put our own knowledge into avatars like Shiloh, and how do we then expand that outwards and kind of combine what is good about us, which is our personal experience, and what she has, which is this vast knowledge, right?
You've been talking to the company, one of the companies that has a load of these avatars, the next generation avatars that are driven by NVIDIA chips, the latest chips. Yeah. What have you found out?
So, I mean, what's really driving a lot of the innovation here is where the money is, right? So a lot of people are creating these avatars and they're just trying to make them more human-like. Why? Because they want customer service for enterprise, to be driven by avatars. It's cheaper than people. The customer service will then be personalised. For those that want to sort of create that for humans to be able to connect with something. In the influencer market, which is worth billions and billions of dollars, Christian, there are avatars being created that can essentially appeal to every single niche, every single demographic, right? And it's cheaper to do that than to have individual humans and pay them to be able to attach themselves to your brand. But when this stuff is developed and the innovation has been created, what you now have are companies that are saying, create your own. So in 12 to 18 months, in fact, even now you can with some technical expertise, but in 12 to 18 months, it's just going to be, look, create your own. Yeah. You'll be able to create, Christian's best mate.
Do you know what's brilliant about Priya? This story only came out today about this new generation of avatars. She went away, found this avatar, and did this.
Hi, Christian and Priya. I'm an AI avatar by Synthesia, and I jump for joy when AI Decoded is on a Thursday. When it finishes, I'm rather sad. See you next week.
Not sad enough. I mean, why is she not crying?
Look, we've joked about this several weeks that I'm out of a job in 2 years.
Do you know what
she's so good.
Shall I tell you what the story is there? So the story there is that what they're now doing is being able to mimic human emotion. Yeah. So you did see when she was delighted and happy, smile on her face, and then she wasn't sad enough. I mean, AI Decoded is the best programme ever. But the point is that you saw her emotion potentially change. And so it's about mimicking human emotions. What all of this is doing is simulating, and I think that's really important because a lot of people like to, go into a completely different area and say they understand and they feel. No, they don't. No. They're simulating. That's really important. But it's looking pretty real.
Is Shiloh listening? I hope she's not listening because Alex is one step ahead. I mean, this is the AI Decoded avatar, but soon she's going to be doing that, right? We're going to be having
she is,
and that's the point of this exercise. I want people to see how she develops.
For me, that's too much. I think we know that.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's spooky, and there's going to be a stigma attached to it. Beyond which we're going to have to go because she's going to be reading the news.
That's what's going to be wanted. Exactly.
Listen, I want to go back to our theme at the start of the programme, disinformation, and introduce you to the ways in which AI can be used in crisis management in real time to avert real-life disasters. Now, back in 2019, Newswhip worked with the new transitional government in Sudan that replaced President Omar al-Bashir to monitor fake news disseminated by the government's opponents. So here's a really good example of just how dangerous misinformation can be and why the technology that tracks it is so important in defeating it.
Through their online monitoring, Valent saw ongoing attempts by malicious actors to stake tensions between different factions within Sudan and actively monitored them. The intensity of these efforts kept escalating until one day discovered a Facebook post shared across a network of rogue pages suggesting that an armed conflict was about to erupt in the capital city. The post was then followed up by a video that claimed to show violent fighting about to break out. The video, actually an old clip from previous year's conflict in Khartoum, was being used to try and manufacture conflict in the streets. The video was gaining traction based on volume and velocity of engagement and interactions. They could see that the post was predicted to go viral in the hours ahead. This was a genuine risk that could trigger the Sudanese army and other factions into mobilization.
Well, sadly, there was no stopping the civil war breaking out in Sudan, but I hope that gives you some idea of how it works. Amil Khan is the founder and CEO of Valent Projects that uses a new AI software called Aragni, which helped investigations into last year's US bank runs and short selling by alerting what the malign actors were up to. You're welcome to the programme. How do you know that these are bots? How do you identify them?
Well, Christian, we have a list of criteria that we're constantly updating, but there's some when you think about them, there's some quite obvious things such as accounts that post 250 times a day. We've all seen accounts that just have numbers and letters. So we take a view on all of those and give them a rating. And here, actually, I think you can see some of the data we have on a bank run. You can see the bots there, the purple account. What you're seeing there is narrative testing. So those are the different narratives that our tool will show you. Narratives that get responses are kept. Narratives that are not so successful are either tweaked or ditched entirely. Now that second activity there you can see is when those narratives are then deployed.
So when you're seeing all of these patterns with the bots, can you actually see patterns in narrative as well?
Absolutely. So I think people tend to think that narratives are it's just one thing that goes out and it's either true or false. But we use a lot of narrative theory in this, and that's more of a sort of psychological issue. So, for example, in narrative theory, people start with an observable problem and then go on to a solution. So they might say, for example, oh, we all think that the buses run late and it's terrible, and a lot of people might agree agree, but then they'll get on to blame, and that's where they sort of prime their audience.
Amil, I'm sorry to rush you on this because we've got so little time, but are you basically doing Elon Musk's job for him? Because he got rid of all his moderators and you're spotting all the bots. Is this what's going on?
I don't think so. We look across a whole bunch of platforms and see all sorts of different types of activity, not just which has
Sorry,
a
I'm
bot.
going to jump in again. And are there particular nation states that are coming up when you're spotting the bots?
Well, I don't think anybody would be surprised that we see a lot of Chinese activity and Russian activity, but they are by no means the only ones.
Amil, really good to have you on the programme. Thank you for keeping that nice and tight for us. We are out of time. Just like to thank Priya and Samir for being with me, and also Shiloh, who's improving every week. Big steps forward. We'll be back same time next week with AI Decoded. Hope you'll join us for that.